Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and if you're here, this is the January 2024 Musings video, and I'm going to start by saying there's a lot to talk about, so as they say, if you need to get a snack, if you need to get a drink, if you need to listen to this video in between doing other things, go ahead, because there's a lot for me to cover today. And let me just say, January 2024 was a month that felt like it was so long. It had so much going on, and there is literally a lot to say and to cover. First thing I can tell you right off the bat is there is actually a lot of tarot involved. So stick around, you're going to listen to a lot of that. And there was a lot of tarot related stuff, but there was also a lot of exciting life things. So I'm going to talk about that too. So let me start with some of the life stuff before I get into books and tarot, because there was a lot of things. Okay. So first off, the month of January was an interesting month because it was kind of one where I decided, I don't know why, maybe because the month of December, I was online, chronically online during the month of December. But during the month of January, I kind of took a step back and thought, it's time for me to be more mindful, to kind of do more of the things I've been interested in doing. So if you thought during the month of January, hey, where's Livy? Why are their videos so inconsistent, and why haven't they been commenting and watching mine? It's literally because I was not online. So yeah, I will probably catch up soonish, but for now, I'm just been kind of used to a routine where I was not online very much. Other things that happened during the month of January, because I was not online and because I was out there doing other things, I ended up going on a lot of random day trips, or not even if there were day trips, they were more one was an actual mini trip. I'm going to talk about that soon. But they were just I'm going to go to the cafe and I'm going to sit and bring my notebook and get some tarot writing related stuff done for my court card series. So I was doing that. I went to a few cafes. If I remember to put pictures of any of them, I did. Also ate a lot of yummy food, I have to say, in the month of January. Literally on New Year's Day, I think, or the day after New Year's Day, I had this yummy Indian lunch buffet. There's a really good Indian place where I live, and it was just really good. If I remember, I'll just put a picture there. So a lot of cafe frequenting, good food, less time online. I was actually reading a lot too. Well, I felt like I was reading more, but I guess when I look at my stack over there, it's only 4 books, but you'll see. I'm going to talk about that. And then for TV, I'll be honest, even TV, I wasn't watching that much TV. I feel I did, but it wasn't anything of import. It was just a lot of reality shows, because that's all I could fit and cram into my brain in between life happening. So, okay. But moving on from that, there is a big thing that did happen during the month of January. So I don't know who remembers this. Oh, by the way, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I don't remember who would remember this, but in December, my partner Daryl went to India to visit his parents. So he was gone for a little while. And so during, he was even gone during the first 2 weeks, I think, of January. It was what it was. And so when he came back, it was really interesting. When he came back, he said, hey, you know what? Let's go on a little day trip thing, or not day trip, but let's go on a little weekend getaway. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we went to this area a little bit north of San Francisco. It's basically Marin County area. There's a couple cool cities there, like Sausalito and Mill Valley and San Rafael. And we basically just had a weekend where we were hanging out and doing cool things. Again, I will probably insert some pictures if I can here. Although on the day we got there, it was a Saturday. The day we got there, it was pouring rain. It was ridiculous. So it was raining so hard and with wind, by the way. So even if you had an umbrella, you were still getting soaked. It was raining so hard, we really couldn't do as much as we wanted. But Daryl tricked me. He said, oh, yeah, our Airbnb says we can't get there until 4:30. And I was like, what? 4:30? But it's like, it's raining. It's all day. And I was just like, okay. But, we were just hanging out, doing things. But then we get to our Airbnb. And if I remember to take a picture, I'm going to show you. We get there and it looks like this. And it turned out that Daryl proposed. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna get married, I guess. That's wild to me. And by the way, for those who might be questioning, I don't like diamonds. So this is actually my birthstone. This is a ruby and I love it and it's cute. And yeah, we're engaged now. So that was a big thing in January. Holy shit. So we're engaged, and yeah, there's been just a lot of like chaos surrounding that because, there's a lot to figure out and I don't even understand it all. And then my mom, she's like kind of turning into a Motherzilla a little bit, but she was like, yeah, I want the wedding. I want to pay for stuff and I want to do blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? It's very new territory to me. So it's kind of chaotic. And with that, when it wasn't even the fact of like just getting proposed, all the other busyness of life, there was actually a lot of tarot related stuff also going on. So it was like January literally felt like it lasted like 5 years. It was crazy. During the month of January, I went to 2 tarot events, guys. 2 tarot events. Yes. Oh my God. And one of them was actually mine. So one of the tarot events I went to was this cool tea and tarot event. It was like at the beginning of, actually I would say like mid-January-ish. I went to a tea and tarot event at this local, well, not local. I did have to drive a little bit, but it was like kind of close-ish metaphysical store. They do cool tea and tarot events. I wish I had taken a picture of it, but I didn't. So if I remember or I'm allowed to, because my phone's like weird, and when I edit things, I'm only allowed to put like 4 pictures in at a time. But if I'm allowed to, I'll just show you. I only had 1 picture from that day, and it was literally afterwards when I went to Barnes and Noble and was sitting and doing more writing stuff. But tea and tarot event was really, really cool. I got to connect with other people who like to do tarot, and that was really awesome. And we even did like readings and stuff, which I can actually show. So funny enough, also during the month of January, I started my new tarot journal. So this is it. It actually says Leo on it, which is funny. It was just like a coworker gift. But oh yeah, this is like the first page. I'm already putting a table of contents. This is my card of the month. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I wanted to show, oh, there you go. Yeah. So I do have a picture of that. So I was at the tea and tarot place, and yeah, we got to do a reading for ourselves. And then we actually had to read for somebody else too. And that was interesting. That was fun. But yeah, I went to a tea and tarot event. That was really cool. And the other event, that was near the end of the month. But the other event was an event I hosted because in December, kind of mid-December, I decided to sign up for this website called Meetup. I don't know if you guys have heard of Meetup, but they were basically having this sale. I think it was like during Cyber Monday or something like that. They were having this like sale thing where if you, I think it was like if you make a group or something, it was something like 30 or 50 or something, some big number off from the original price it would cost for like 6 months or something to like be a host of a group. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me do a tarot group. But I did. And so In December, I only tried to get like a tarot meet and greet, and only two people came. That was sad. But this time, I planned ahead. I let the event run for a little, like announced it early enough. And guys, I was excited. I think, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think like 5 or 6 people came. It was like, I was like, what? But they came, and yeah, it was really cool to talk to other people who also like tarot. Interestingly, for those who showed up, most of them were newish to tarot. There's only one person who showed up. There was this guy, and he was an older gentleman. So he had been doing tarot, I think he said, for at least 25 years. So he had more experience than me. I was like, holy shit, okay, you could have been running this group, but this is cool. So future events, I guess I'll be doing with that meetup group will be me like explaining how to start up a tarot practice. Cause we literally had someone who was like interested in tarot join the group too. Didn't have their own deck, just came for good times. And that was really cool. But yeah, guys, a lot happened. And that was 11 minutes of me talking just about like what happened during the month of January. Wild, huh? More coffee. But yeah, that event was really successful and I was happy. So tarot, yay. There's more things I could say with tarot, especially related to this journal, but we'll talk about books first and then get into tarot stuff. So let me do that. I'm just moving things around. Okay. First off, in the month of December, you guys might remember, I had like a weird reading month to me. It just felt kind of like, to be frank, December's reading month kind of felt like bullshit. There was like a lot of books I didn't care to read. And so I was really sad and I just wanted to read good stuff. And so I did. I actually started the year off strong. My first book in the month of January was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This book was so good for me. Oh, and by the way, another thing I'm doing, I had this notepad for a while, but I forgot to actually write reviews in it. So I have this little like book review thing, and it like tells you can make a little template and give your ratings. For me personally, Black Sun was a 5-star read. Now, put the caveat in there though, that even though this was a 5-star read for me, there are things I would have added into this. Like the biggest thing with Black Sun was that I thought the story needed to actually be longer than it was to develop some of the side characters because they didn't feel like they got enough room to grow. But Black Sun, for those who don't know what this is Rebecca Roanhorse's fantasy that, if you can see here, it is inspired by civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas. So this was really cool to read because Rebecca Roanhorse herself is also indigenous, like Native American. So this was basically inspired by cultures from that, but with the caveat, I have to say this is her own fantasy world. So I'm assuming whatever she drew in from different indigenous cultures was probably very loosely based, but at the same time, I really, really enjoyed it. And having that indigenous background to this, it basically threaded the whole book because a lot of the like setting stuff, things they ate, stuff they talked about, like how they bartered because they used shells and like all this other stuff, it felt very indigenous in that way. And so I don't know how you could separate that from the plot of this book. But to explain what this one is about, it's a multi-POV book where there's a few different characters, and one of the main ones is this man named Serapio, who was basically, when he was really, really little, his mom purposely blinded him. Like she showed his eyes shut as a sacrifice so that the crow god could basically possess him. Like he's basically the vessel for the crow god. And one day there's like this prophecy that he's going to come back to this holy city of Tova and take it over again and destroy the Sun Priest. So there's a lot of like celestial bits in this, a lot of bits on mythology, the themes of like light and darkness. Interestingly, the story also mentioned like consulting like astrological charts. So it felt very I don't know, it just felt so I loved the world that was being developed here. Good pluses for this book, for Black Sun, was that the plot and characters, in my opinion, felt very expansive. The setting, of course, was unique and different. And by the way, there was great LGBTQIA rep in here. One of the mainish characters, Ziala, they don't exactly label what her sexuality is, but I got the impression that she's at least bi or pansexual, so that was really cool to see. And also this book discussed like third genders, like kind of non-binary genders basically, but what was the pronouns? They didn't use they, them. I think it was like they, zer. So that was really cool. So Black Sun was a great start to the year. Now, I do have to say, though, I'm going to do this together. Black Sun, really enjoyed it. However, the second book, let's talk about that. So the second book is Fevered Star, and I actually did not like this one as much as Black Sun. And the reason for it is, okay, let me actually explain it. So Black Sun, right? 5 stars. If I had to look at Fevered Star, it was only a 4-star for me. So a whole star kind of gets taken off. And the reason why Fevered Star had less of a, had like 1 star less, is that I feel like this was a book, it felt like it was very in between. And what I mean by that is like, it felt like a book that was just trying to explain things that are happening in between before you get to like another book where there's actually bigger stuff going on. Does that make sense? So this was the second book, and it basically just continued things that happened in the first book. But my main thing with this, even though I enjoyed it and I want to keep reading the series, the reason why it got the whole star less for me is that this book did not feel long enough. Once again, it did not feel long enough. So a lot of the character arcs that were started in the first book felt underdeveloped by the second book, okay? Because it just felt like too much was happening. There was a lot of characters also who got brief POVs, and it didn't feel like any of them dominated enough that they felt more developed than the first book. So that's why I am going to put that caveat. If you're interested in Black Sun, I do not personally think Fevered Star is better than Black Sun, okay? And then some of the characters, like I said, also just needed more expansion. They just needed more time to shine and be developed. There's only one character, I think, in this book who I think personally actually went through a whole character arc. And that was the original Sun Priest, Narampa. So she was the only one. And I'm like, what the heck? Why do the rest not feel as developed? But the plot and political elements in this book were more developed and tied in from the first one. So that was really cool to see. I just didn't like it as much. So wah is what it is. But I still am going to continue this series. So yeah. But anyways, actually, after I read Black Sun, because I had to wait a little bit before getting Fevered Star, I read this book. This is Amari and the Great Game. This is the second book in the Amari and the Night Brothers series. I don't know. Yeah, no, it doesn't say there. But this is by B.B. Alston. This book, guys, this is a middle grade, by the way. This is a middle grade fantasy. I always think this book is a combination of, you know what it reminds me of? It's a combination between, what's that series name? The Morgan Crow series, sorry. And, and like, oh, Men in Black, maybe? This is a weird comparison, but anyways, Amari and the Great Game. I liked this book a lot. I think I actually liked this book more than I liked the first one. So this is like that interesting reversal, right? Where I thought Black Sun's first book was better, but Amari and the Great Game felt better to me than the first book did. Like, it felt like more the world had been developed and more the characters were kind of like sure of themselves or like trying to go along. This is a great book series though, for especially middle graders. I gave this one 4.5 stars. For me, how do I explain this? Let me see what I wrote in my notes. I have my notes here, so I'm looking. For me, 4.5 stars because I did like it better than Amari. The plot felt fuller and the world was more developed from the first book, kind of. But there are some things in this book where I couldn't give it a complete 5-star read for me. Part of that is that some of the villains in this book, because there's like a few and like pseudo villains and it's this whole thing, but some of the villains felt a little cartoonish. And there's a big element in this book where it's talking about the great games that happened to Amari. Like, she's basically supposed to compete for like the crown kind of the magicians, even though that part's being done in secret. Because like the magical world supernatural, they call it the supernatural world as they have it, is kind of like breaking down right now, devolving into like civil war and stuff. I feel like more the game element could have been prominent, and so that was another thing. But I kind of need to see what direction the series is going to see if I'm going to like, for instance, the third book even more than this one. And yeah, but Amari and the Great Game, this is the second book. I do recommend this, like I said, middle grade series. It's fun. It's fun. I really like it. But yeah. And then finally, last book, guys, before we get into tarot, I swear, okay? Last book, I finished. I'm going to say that. I finished in the month of January because there was another book I started in the month of January, but at the time of me filming this is like the first few days of February. I already finished that book, but I'm going to count it as a February finish. Anyways, not important. Last book I finished in the month of January was this one. This is actually a tarot book, guys. Yes, I did tell you guys in my tarot goal video that I am trying to get through more tarot books and get more reviews on that. But if you haven't heard of this one already, more coffee. This is a Rachel Pollack book, but this is A Walk Through the Forest of Souls, a tarot journey to spiritual awakening. Okay, I read this whole thing. I have some thoughts here, okay? I have to be honest, okay? I'm being honest. Some people who've maybe read this, they might fight me on this, but I literally gave this book 3.5 stars, and I couldn't really give it more than that. For me personally. Sorry, but is what it is. This is my opinion reading this book, okay? Let's talk about some of the goods with this book, okay? I liked that this book talked a lot about the history of tarot and even how Thoth tarot sprung from that history. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know, before reading this book, I didn't know shit about Thoth tarot. I didn't know what it was steeped in. I thought it was too esoteric. I didn't even want to like touch it with a 20-foot pole. So I liked that this book enlightened me because I had no clue what the hell that type of tarot style of reading was about. And I feel like this book highlighted that. I also think that this book had some really nice spreads in it. Like there was a few spreads that were shown, especially like the soul reading spread. Remember, guys, I did that even on my channel. I did like that spread and a couple of others that I want to try out from this book. So I think the spreads were also a good thing in this. However, why I only rated this 3.5 stars is, I have to be honest, I thought that this book got too religious for my liking, right? And so because of that, I found myself getting very, very, very bored. Okay? Just my opinion is what it is. This book, I think, was also attempting to go in a lot of philosophical directions, but yeah, it tried to explain too many of them at once, and so it kind of lost my interest after a while. And what I mean by that is, so this book covers like the origins of how like the thought style of tarot started up. This book talks a lot about Kabbalah and Kabbalahism and how Kabbalah practices tie into Judaism. And then it also like started going on these tangents about Christianity. And then it started doing like this whole other thing. And then it was just like, what the hell is happening? I came to this just mainly for tarot. Like I was interested in seeing like what directions it was going to go with that. But it started, I don't know, it was tarot still, but it was very, how do I explain this? I guess it was just too esoteric for me, like trying to, how do I explain? Like, I felt like she was inserting a lot of her own religious and spiritual beliefs into how she was presenting what the cards are. Because, for instance, so there's like bits she would go into where she's talking about specific cards, okay? But then, you know, you go back into the Tree of Life stuff. I'll be honest, I don't care about this. Just because I know about it now with Thoth doesn't mean I actually like it, to be honest. It's like too much for me. It is. It's just, and I think part of the reason why it's too much for me is because I don't go to tarot for my religion, if that makes sense. It is like something that I guess is slightly spiritual, but I don't care for a lot of the more religious connotations. So this was really trying to explore all that imagery and try to attribute all this esoteric stuff to the cards and saying, oh, well, this card is referring to this religious story. And it's like, cool. Maybe that's how it originally was, but I don't have to read tarot like that anymore. You know what I mean? It kind of felt like that. Like me, it felt a lot like me thinking, okay, yeah, so. That's so mean to say, but it's like I just didn't enjoy it, you know? Because once again, I just don't mix my religious stuff with my tarot. It was trying to, again, tackle like a lot of those different religious sides and how they view tarot. I could even talk about Marseille. I talked about Rider-Waite-Smith. I talked about Thoth, Kabbalah stuff. But I think it was doing too much. So yeah, I did not enjoy this as much as I thought I was going to. So disappointing, but it is what it is now. And yeah. But anyways, let's move on, guys. We're going to talk now about actual tarot beyond like just a tarot book. As I said at the start of this video, I started a new tarot journal. And I did a lot of tarot, guys. During the month of January, I was probably doing more tarot than I had done in many months. Oh, this part's still empty because I put in the pictures. This was my Oracle deck study. I'll get into that in a little bit. But in the month of January, well, first off, you guys know I did that spread, New Year, New You. I think there was somewhere where I did a video on that. But yeah, I did a New Year, New You spread. My card. Let's talk about my card for the month of January. My card for the month of January was the Ace of Pentacles. And I put as its little title is starting the year strong. And I think I did. I did get a little tired near the end, but I think I put in a lot of work and it showed. It showed. Some other things. My card of the year. I think I talked about this already. I think I already had a video. I don't remember. But my card for the month, or my card of the year is actually Temperance. I'm in a temperance year. And this went on Instagram, but yeah, I had a whole picture where I was like showing pretty much every deck I have. And I pulled out their temperance cards. I put that all together. So temperance year, it's going to be a lot about balancing energies, and I hope I'm ready for that, but we'll see. And then I did most of the month I was doing week ahead spreads, but I did do a couple of different spreads, right? Like the Teen Tarot event, I had, it was like a 2-card reading. And I don't know why after that event too, I was like really interested in doing more 2-card readings. So I had a What You Want spread. I did a My Dream one. I had a weird dream that night and I was like trying to figure out what was going on there. And then Embrace Release. And then more of like that week aheads. Oh, and then of course, my Oracle deck study for the month. So let's talk about that actually, because my Oracle deck for the month of January, I think was the true MVP of the month of January, to be honest. And that was the Starseeker Oracle. Oh, by the way, you're going to see a theme. All my Oracle and Tarot decks of that month, for some reason, kind of had a purple gray tone to them. I don't know why. That was like the color scheme I wanted, but it was. But anyways, the Starseeker Oracle. This is a deck where, remember guys, I did a video about this deck. And for some reason, when I was doing the video for that deck, and even afterwards at first, I didn't know how much I actually liked this deck or not. I was just like, oh, is this one of those things I kind of just got and I kind of have a little bit of buyer's remorse? Maybe at first, but this deck surprised me. So if you haven't seen it, this is a deck I kickstarted, by the way. This is a companion to the Starseeker Tarot, which you're also going to see in this video, but these are the backs. It has this cool metallic flat purple edging. I really like it. And these are the cards. They are beautiful. This deck, guys, took me by surprise because I don't know, it has a lot of like really powerful cards in it. And it kind of told me exactly what I needed to hear during the month of January. Like I even had this card at one point. This is a stuck card. The keywords on this card are very powerful and very to the point. So I think they work for a lot of people. Like this is patience. I had this card at one point. There's even some affirmation-based cards thrown in here because these were extras that got back because enough people backed the Kickstarter. This says, it is safe to trust myself. I had this card at one point. This is so cute. It reminded me of Mocha. This is a comfort card. Even this card came up a lot or a few times. Grounding. The portal card. Healer. Inner child, I think I had at one point too. As you can see, it's very, oh, and this card I think I had at one point too. The creator. This I came up a couple times, the masked one. So, you know, this was just a deck that had a lot of very powerful cards. And again, it told me exactly kind of what I needed to hear. What I love about this deck too is it has a lot of, oh, this card came up a few times too, the confusion card and the conflict one. This deck is interesting because it combines things that feel kind of modern with also fantastical elements to it. Like this reminds me of like the Lord of the Rings, like Passage 2 for some reason. Has cool figures like the Storyteller. Gratitude's even in here, right? It's like some of the bits feel... And this part, though, look at this. Inner power. Like, look at how powerful this is. It's very fantastical. And so in that way, I'm surprised how much this deck, like, really, like, kind of punched me in the gut, but in a nice way in some ways. Oh, this card came up once. That was cool. It says, I am passionate. I am determined. I am capable of creating anything I desire. So, yeah, this was a really... Oh, I had this card a couple times too, Discipline. And this one came up once, the team. It was just, this card did so much for me. This card came up a lot. This card, like, I had a lot of cards that came up from this deck. And it was so good. So yeah, I really studied this deck. Oh, this one even has like metallic edging. Some of the edges are different. But yeah, really powerful. This ended up being a really powerful deck. This was a great one. And I would recommend it, actually. And can I just say, I actually feel like some people might come for me. I don't know. I feel like I like the Oracle right now more than I do the actual tarot. So yeah, that's wild. But it was so good. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just really, really nice and really powerful. And look at how beautiful. Some of these cards are just so beautiful. So yeah, the Starseeker Oracle. It was my MVP during the month of January. And by the way, the guidebook on this one, it comes in this little pamphlet, but look at how much is written. It's actually very well written too. I really like this. This does the job. It is so good. Really, really cannot recommend this one enough. So yeah, the Starseeker Oracle, it did its job. And speaking of that, I guess we'll talk about it because it's right next to me too. This is the original tarot that the same creator did, Nikki Ferrata. This is a Starseeker Tarot though. I have the pocket edition, so mine is little. It has this, as you can see, holographic silver edging on the pocket edition. The cardstock's also different. But yeah, I'll be honest. I'm going to be completely honest. You would think that the month I'm using the Starseeker Oracle, I would have done a reading with both of these. The hilarious part is that did not happen at all. It did not happen because for some reason, I only reached for this deck once. Only one time. Only one time did I feel compelled to use this deck. To be fair, I did use this deck a couple times last year. So maybe in just the face of like some of the other decks that I'm going to talk about, I just didn't care to use this one as much. But yeah, I only used this deck one time for a week ahead spread. I took it while I was on, I guess what ended up being my engagement trip. And then, oh yeah, that was a funny thing on Instagram, right? I mentioned this because I realized when I got there, 8 cards from this deck were missing. I had accidentally left them at home because I was still doing my filming and I still needed to film for like the queens and the kings for my court card series. So yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel compelled to use this deck any more than one time. So I literally only use this one time. But the rest of the decks I'm going to talk about, I used at least twice, if not more, during the month of January. And I think I'm going to start with these two. They're the same deck, but now I have a cute little bag. This bag is so good, and it's like good quality. This is the Monsoon Tarot. I use this month during the month of January. Now, funny thing about this deck is that I only use this deck not for week ahead spreads. I use this deck for other readings. And I think the reason why I did was because this deck is just so versatile and I have an interesting bond with this deck already that it felt like the most accurate deck to do more powerful readings with. So I did. I don't know why I took this part out. I guess just to show you that I have a cute little new bag for it. It fits perfectly because this tech box was starting to get a little beat up. But this was my original, guys. Remember, I had only the Monsoon Little, mini, baby. But I used both interchangeably during the month. Like sometimes I used only this one if I was able to go somewhere. But I mostly used also this one. Like, I even took the Monsoon Tarot. This was a deck, obviously, I took to the TA and Tarot event that I went to. Because, I don't know, I just felt like it. And it felt like a most accurate reader. And it kind of is. The standard edition, like I have, has backs that are this color. The mini don't have this gray color on the border. It's still this image, but it's all like this color right here. So, there's that. Monsoon Tarot. I have talked about this deck a lot. This is one of my favorites. It is so dreamy and powerful. It's another world. I've thought about doing a walkthrough of this deck, and a viewer actually did request a walkthrough of this deck, so I probably will give my more in-depth thoughts on it then. Although I feel kind of divided on it, only because Logan over at Larkin Legend has a really great video about this deck already, and I kind of don't want to talk over them. So it's one of those things. I'm not sure, but this deck is so good, so powerful. If you like, and here's the other thing, this art, as you can see, it's very It's almost very Studio Ghibli-esque. So if you like Studio Ghibli, but in like a more painful way, might like this. Or anime traditions, anime manga, you'd probably like this. It's very dreamy, but it's not a deck for everybody because as you can see in this picture, you can actually see their faces. In this one, the faces are purposely blurred out. And there's a reason for that. This is supposed to be more like dreamlike landscape and stuff. Like how sometimes in your dreams, some people are clear and some are not, right? It's that idea. It's like some kind of other world. And sometimes you can make out the details and sometimes you can't. But this style might not be for everybody, but I love this deck. So yeah, the Monsoon Tarot. I use this a lot. I use this for a lot of different readings, and it's still, because it's a deck that I'm more bonded to, it also gives me more reliable readings. I always get excited about that. Like, the best tarot decks are always the ones that you bond with. So yeah, this one was really good. Also during the month of January, I used my Shadowscapes Tarot. I used this deck 3 times. I did it for two week ahead readings. These are the backs. I've had this deck for a while. This should not be new to a lot of you. Remember, I got this deck actually in Canada of all places. But yeah, it should not be new to anybody. But I decided to use this deck, and I always love using this deck. It is also very fantastical. It's just so beautiful. Every time I look at this deck, I forget about like, I forget how much detail is packed into this, but I have a different view. Some people, when they see this deck, they get really up in arms, and then they really want the bigger cards. They want the, like the Czech version of this deck or something like that. But that's kind of weird to me because these images already look big. So I don't know why people go out of their way to get the other one. This version seems perfectly fine to me. And yeah, this is a beautiful one as always. I use it for 2 week ahead readings. And I actually took this to my tarot event. So when I was showing people stuff about the cards, I showed off this deck. Oh, we did a funny prediction about the about the 49ers. And one of the questions I was asked, it was asked as a joke, but it was kind of like, are they going to win the Super Bowl, or are they going to win their game? Me and the more experienced gentleman had to explain that you can't really predict that with tarot, but you can ask kind of a related other question. So I asked the cards, what energy do they need to keep up in order to win their game? And it told me they needed to be confident. The Knight of Wands was pulled. The Ace of Cups, Ace of Wands also popped up. So basically they needed to be fired up. They need to keep the energy going. And lo and behold, they did. And they won their game. So that was really funny. But yeah, that happened. Yeah. But Shadowscapes Tarot, it's a nice one. I feel like I need to do a more in-depth study with this deck, though, because every time I see this, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that card existed in this deck, and it's just so beautiful. So I'll think about it, but love this one. Love, love, love. Okay, and moving on. The last deck I used during the month of January was a deck that actually took me by surprise. I did not expect to love this deck as much as I did, because when I initially bought it, I thought, I had a little bit, I'll be honest, I had a little bit of buyer's remorse, but don't feel that way anymore. This is the Forager's Daughter Tarot. This is specifically the Afterlight edition, okay? This deck is beautiful, and I do have to show, it comes with, sorry guys, I had to there we go. It comes with this big hardcover guidebook. Yes, I love to see this. I mean, some people I know, they like it when the guidebook fits inside their boxes. And to be fair, most of the time I like that too. But I would not trade this guidebook for a smaller one any day when you see how much information is in this. So the Forager's Daughter Tarot, I will show the cards, but we do need to talk a little bit about this guidebook because it is beautiful. First off, it has gold gilded edges. And by the way, yeah, this is different from a traditional tarot deck in that this one has 83 cards, okay? It's inspired by Art Nouveau and arts and crafts movements, medieval tapestry, naturalist illustrations, and the natural world around us. This is also by Jessica Lee Howard. And by the way, this is an animal deck. So if you are somebody who does not like animal decks, this is probably not for you. But look at how beautiful this is, okay? Big table contents. Lot on the cards. And look at every image on the card. So it goes in straight into Major Arcana. Gets this full color illustration of the card. It gives you a dissection of the card. It gives you the compass, reflection, and then it even talks about upright positioning and the signs associated, like the big imagery on this card that you need to keep in mind. And by the way, this layout is for every single card in the deck. No card in this deck gets the shaft. Perfect. And then when you get to the end, so there's, as you can see, there is a lot of extra cards, and you'll see those as I flip through the deck. But when you get to the end of this deck, it does give you tarot spreads. I'm really interested in doing these in the future, but there's a lot of them. There's a follow the tracks one. There's clearing the river, consulting the seasons. I'm really interested in doing this one. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful guidebook. Then you get the actual deck itself. It's one of these, has a string that goes out like this. This is inside the box. Very nice. And these are the cards. Gold gilded edges. So far they don't seem like they're flaking actually. That's good. The cardstock. Oh, these are the backs. Same as the cover, you know. These are the backs. And the cardstock, maybe this would not be for everybody. At first, I was very wary of this because you guys know me. I'm very picky on texture. This is a glossy, very high gloss linen cardstock. High gloss linen. So it actually has a nice bend and shuffle. But I was very wary about this because I don't like sticky, shiny textures. But it doesn't bother me as much now. I do like it. But this deck, as you can see, is very beautiful. The readings I did with this deck also were very powerful. I think I did a mixture of week ahead, and then I think I did maybe one. I don't remember. I might have done one reading where it was not a week ahead. It was like a different spread, and I remember being very impressed by the messages it gave me. I ended up thinking it was very powerful. This is very naturalist too. You know what this deck reminds me of? So some people, you know, they'll talk about, for instance, the Brady Tarot, which I don't have. It's an animal deck. And they call that like the Discovery Channel tarot deck because it's like very gruesome. It like shows animals like in very, you know, their natural wild selves. And I think this book, see, even with this card, and right, I think it does that. It also shows nature in its like natural way. But it shows it in a way where it's like, what was that channel? Or what was that mini series called Blue Planet or something like that? Where it's like, it shows you the natural world, like how these animals actually react in our world. But it shows you in a way that's beautiful. It wants to show the beauty of it, even if it's painful. So I like the balance. Oh, this card makes me sad, but I like the balance in this deck. I think this is the right amount for me. I can't deal with the Brady Tarot. It just seems too extreme. This one for me, oh, and I love the kitty here. This one for me strikes a nice balance between more serious and reflective, but also beautiful and like gentle in some other ways. Like it gives you what you need to hear, but I don't think it does it in a way that's like stomping on you, if that makes sense. So this deck surprised me. Oh, I got this card actually during the month, Ingenuity. This is one of the extra cards. There's quite a few of them. I probably actually talked over a few of them that popped up. But Yeah, this deck took me by surprise. It was very beautiful. And by the way, if you were paying attention to my community page, I did actually talk about when this creator had this deck on sale. Normally, this deck is like $75 US. So yes, it is pricier for an indie deck. But there was for a brief period of time where this deck was only like 30 something or 40 something. And I would say if you like animal decks, that is very, very much worth it because it is a great one. So, oh, this is another extra card. This is Ancestor. But yeah, this was such a beautiful deck. And I do want to use this again. I don't know when, but it's, oh, I get excited now looking at it. But yeah. Ooh, maybe not ending on snakes. I know some people don't like snakes. I'll end on bats. Why not? Two of Swords. Anyways, if you watch this long, thank you for watching, first off. I hope you enjoyed all the things I had to talk about during the month of January. I hope you guys liked the fact that I did so much tarot and had a lot to say. I actually used my decks and it was great. And I want to keep it up into the month of February. So very excited for what's to come. And yeah, so I'm going to end this here. Bye, everyone.